Hello and welcome to the Scott Arboretum of Swarthmore College. My name is Adam Gloss. I'm a garden supervisor here on campus. Today we're talking about the Dean Bond Rose Garden and why we're particularly proud of this garden. Other than it being extremely beautiful, it is a sustainable garden. It's completely organically maintained. We do not use any synthetic chemicals or fertilizers in here of any sort. So the original rose garden was designed and installed in the mid-50s, and it was designed by Gertrude Wister, the assistant director of the Arboretum at that time. The original design intent was to have a traditional rose garden with, all different varieties and types of roses, species roses, hybrid teas, grandifloras, floribundas, you name it, we had it in here. But it was nothing but roses. It was a very traditional rose garden. So, we had a peak bloom season in late May, early June, and then it would be kind of static and, a lot of foliage and a lot of green until late summer, early fall when we get a little rebloom of the roses. So, as the college and Arboretum has decided to move in a more sustainable approach to our landscaping here and gardening on campus, we decided that it was a great opportunity for us to rethink this rose garden and reinvigorate it to a more modern approach and a more modern take on rose gardening. So as a result, we really focused on creating more of a mixed planting here in the rose garden. So you can see there's a base layer of all kinds of perennials, bulbs, and some annuals that really help us with keeping the garden interesting all season long, so something's blooming all throughout the season. And it also helps us with our sustainability and our technique and approach in this garden. So the perennials really help us attract a lot of beneficial insects and pollinators in this garden, which are super important for us with controlling pest issues mostly, but they can also help with disease a little bit as well. So through that process, we really focused on removing roses that were susceptible primarily to black spot, which is a huge issue for us here in the Mid-Atlantic region, and choosing and selecting new varieties of roses or old variety of roses were really disease resistant and can handle the humid climate here in the Mid-Atlantic region. So over the last 6 or 8 years, we've been incorporating new varieties of roses and really focusing on the organic approach and the sustainability of this space. Another really great feature in the rose garden is that we are featuring clematis in here. So in conjunction with the International Clematis Society, we trialed about 50 different varieties of clematis that were not widely available here in the United States. So we brought in roses from Poland and the UK and various places around Europe that we thought would do well and that people would be interested having here on the market. So we trialed those clematis for 4 years, and the results of those trials were shared and published in the International Clematis Society Journal. We've also incorporated peonies into this garden. So adding a little bit more early spring interest, we've got all different types of peonies, Ito hybrids, herbaceous peonies, as well as a few tree peonies that we're featuring. So in regard to companion plantings, with roses of all different colors and shapes and forms in here, we wanted to think about the underplantings to be a unifying element within the design. So a lot of repetition between the beds so that we've got unity throughout the beds and kind of carry the design all through the space. Another really fun fact about the rose garden is that when seniors graduate, they come to the rose garden before commencement and they choose a rose that they will have pinned on their lapel as they cross the stage. So it's a little bit of the Scott Arboretum taken with them as they leave campus here after their 4 years of education. Another beautiful feature of the rose garden are the gates. So these gates were designed by a local artist named Greg Levitt, and each of the entrances of the rose garden features a unique design in the gate. We also recently replaced the original chain and post system that we grow some of our climbing roses on. Last summer, Greg designed this new feature for the rose garden specifically for us to be able to grow climbing roses as well as clematis on these posts. So if you like sustainable gardening and organic gardening as well as rose gardens and you're inspired by the images and videos you see on your screen today, please vote for us. We would love your support, and we hope you enjoyed the little tour today.
The thing about apples is they can't be preserved in a seed bank. They really don't come true to seed. If you grow an apple tree from a seed that you collect from an apple that you enjoyed, that resulting tree will, potentially look and taste nothing like its parent. With apples and other tree fruits, it's really important that we preserve living germplasm. We can't just preserve seed because that won't preserve those varieties. We have to preserve them in orchards like this one. We've got to continue actively growing these old varieties for fear of losing them. It's kind of this really important story about how climate change and a preservation orchard that's been in existence since the Great Depression all sort of came to a head. During the Great Depression, there was a gentleman named Stearns Lothrop Davenport. He was actually tasked by the Massachusetts Department of Agriculture to lead a WPA project. He was managing crews of people to cut down unmanaged apple trees that were within close proximity to commercial orchards. And what he realized through this work was that he was in some cases maybe cutting down the only representative of a particular variety. Mr. Davenport recognized that there was a need to preserve these old varieties before they were wiped off the face of the earth. He set out to make his life's mission collecting many of these old heirloom varieties and bringing them back to his home farm in North Grafton, Massachusetts. He recognized that his orchard needed a caretaker, needed a steward that would survive him. He had been a trustee with the Worcester County Horticultural Society, and so he approached the president to say, I've got this apple orchard. I would really love it if Worcester County Hort Society would take on managing it. This could be a really fantastic way for the organization to help preserve these heirloom varieties. One of the very first projects that we undertook when building out Tower Hill was to then move the orchard here. And so for 30 years or more, the garden had this heirloom preservation orchard, greeting every single guest who came up the driveway. We would regularly, every spring, late winter, early spring, collect scionwood off of the apple orchard and distribute it. And scionwood was distributed from this collection to all 50 states, to something like a dozen countries. 2010, that was the last year that we were able to distribute scionwood from this collection because later on that season, fire blight moved in and really ravaged the orchard. It's part of the reason it's called fire blight is because it spreads like wildfire. That particular year, we had temperatures well above 75 degrees in early May, when it's typically pretty wet, and fire blight at that time period, when the temperatures are above 75, is able to travel from tree to tree on the backs of honeybees. So while honeybees are doing their very important work of pollination, they're also transferring fire blight. They're transferring that bacteria from tree to tree. We went to pretty extensive measures to try to protect the trees that were in the collection, but we were fighting and losing an uphill battle. And so by 2018, when I had just started in the position that I'm in now at Tower Hill, a gentleman named John Bunker, who's an incredible expert in heirloom apples, approached me and said, I want to help you restore the orchard. It's time to cut down all the trees and start from scratch. So John and I, for the past 2 years, have worked on this restoration plan. We have a small staff like most botanic gardens do. Without the help of volunteers, there's no way we could have done anything like this spring. So I think, for me, it's really twofold. I hope that people can share with us in celebrating, just the tastiness of the fruit. but I also hope that we can relaunch that Scion distribution program in pretty short order so that we can continue to grow the collection of orchardists out there helping us to preserve this, this really important germplasm, this important piece of our collection.
We are very excited to be here to celebrate the opening of this beautiful welcome center that will draw folks from all over the greater Pittsburgh region and beyond to enjoy this beautiful and peaceful oasis and to enjoy the nature that it has to offer. What you see behind me today is the results of all our dreams and hard work. This $10.5 million welcome center in Auto Garden was made possible through public and private funding.
The reason it snowed today is like coming back to Pittsburgh Botanic Garden after a long winter's nap and you're seeing something different.
I see this visitor center as being a gateway to the woods.
I'm glad you used the word gateway because that's exactly how we thought of the building as being a gateway to this landscape.
But please enjoy the space.
Oh my gosh, it's
Oh, this is absolutely gorgeous.
Pittsburgh Botanic Garden really is about bringing Pittsburgh to the world and sharing the story of Pittsburgh, sharing the history of Pittsburgh. I can't say enough how that early conceptual direction that you guys established for us really informed the design of the building. This entry courtyard, the classroom, education terrace over here that you'll see, and then the cafe terrace and the wonderful woodland room.
It's great that we have such a community that is willing to give and help us build places like this. Thank you for those past dedications and the continued dedication that you all give.
1, 2, 3.